The story of the philosopher who died for his philosophy. Athens is a city made of arguments. Sunlight on marble, dust on sandals, questions in the marketplace. You can hear it in the way people haggle over figs, over ships, over the gods themselves. A murmur that never ends. In that murmur, one voice grows familiar. A man who looks like nobody's hero, broad-nosed, poor, barefoot more often than not, stops strangers and asks them to show him where their certainty ends. His name is Socrates. He doesn't write books. He doesn't found a school with fees and uniforms. He just walks. He walks and asks, and the city rearranges itself around his questions like water around a slow, stubborn stone. "Tell me," he says to a famous general, "what is courage? To stand firm in battle." And when the plan demands retreat, the general blinks like a man in sudden sun. "Tell me," he says to a respected poet, "what is beauty?" The poet makes a gesture that means everything and nothing. "Then perhaps," the old man says, smiling, "we should start smaller." He is not trying to humiliate, he is trying to wake. His method is a humble knife, and he keeps it sharp. Ask, examine, follow the thread. Do not pretend to know what you do not know. It earns him friends who love being shaken awake, and enemies who prefer sleep. In the council chambers, men with good names pronounce him dangerous. In taverns, boys imitate the way he tilts his head and says, "What do you mean by that?" Their fathers roll their eyes and say, "The city is changing for the worse." On street corners can buy jokes about him. In the theater, a comic playwright puts him on a cloud and has him talk to fleas. The crowd laughs, and while they laugh, they take a measure of him. A man on a cloud can fall. What does Socrates believe? Start here. The unexamined life is not worth living. Not because it's wicked, but because it is asleep. He believes that doing wrong harms the doer most of all. He believes that it is better to suffer injustice than to commit it, better to be struck than to strike unjustly. He believes that truth is not a possession, but a pilgrimage, one you make with others, asking them to walk beside you, even when they curse you for choosing the steep path. He speaks of a daimonion, a small inner warning that has no vocabulary beyond "don't." It never tells him what to do, it tells him only what not to do. Do not lie, do not betray, do not speak the easy sentence that makes you safe and small. He says the city has a soul as surely as a person does. He says a city grows sick when flatterers pose as physicians and feed it sweets. He tells young men with good cheekbones and better inheritance to train their minds the way athletes train their bodies: repetition, humility, sweat. He tells them wisdom begins by admitting ignorance, and you can hear fathers eavesdropping, tightening their jaws at that. It is not just the questions, it is the loyalty he inspires. Men who could afford to be amused by nothing sit at his feet until the sun moves. A quiet student named Plato takes notes in his head like a man catching rain in jars. A fiery one named Alcibiades, beautiful, brilliant, dangerous, can't decide whether to be a statesman or a storm. He drinks in Socrates' words, and then the city drinks him in and spits him out, and people mutter that the philosopher makes wild horses in young men's chests. A war ends and leaves Athens thinner. Fewer sons, more debts, pride turned to a sore that will not heal. During the war, a group of 30 men, brutal, efficient, ruled as tyrants for a winter that seemed to last a year. They murdered. They exiled. They rewrote the laws to fit their knives. Socrates, when asked to help arrest an innocent man, refused to go. He did not shout. He did not perform heroism. He simply went home. "I will not do it," he said, and he lived, because even tyrants sometimes mislay a name. The democracy returns. With it returns the habit of blame. The city wants a sacrifice that looks like an explanation. Socrates is old now, but age is not a shield. 3 men bring charges. He corrupts the youth. He does not believe in the gods of the city. He invents new deities. He makes the weaker argument appear the stronger. Their words smell like incense and fear. A trial is declared. Juries in Athens are not 12 careful faces in a box. They are hundreds of citizens, each with a pebble to drop for guilt or innocence. The theater fills. The old man stands. He could flatter. He could cry. He could wheel his grandchildren onto the stage and ask the city to see itself in their faces. He could trade the truth for a lighter sentence. He does none of these. He performs the only ritual he trusts. He examines the accusation as if it were a proposition at the marketplace. "You say I corrupt the youth," he says. "If I do it knowingly, I am mad. If unknowingly, instruct me and I will stop. But no one brings me a single boy and says, "Here, see what you did. You praise the horses I do not own, the statues I do not carve, the speeches I do not write, and you blame me for the one thing I do, which is ask questions. I will not stop. A god, I think, assigned me to this city as a gadfly to a sleepy horse, and I will sting until it wakes." The jurors shift. Some smile in spite of themselves. Some imagine stinging a horse and know why horses kick. He turns to the question of piety. Do I not believe in the gods? Witnesses will tell you I speak of a voice within that is more belief than disbelief. Or is the city so possessive of its statues that any other whisper is treason? He speaks of poverty as proof of honesty. He reminds them he has never charged a fee, never dragged anyone to the agora by the elbow, never promised wisdom as a product, but only as a practice. He offers them what he has offered everyone, a refusal to pretend. The vote, guilty. The penalty must be set. The accuser's eyes bright propose death. In Athens, the condemned can propose an alternative. This is the moment to bow, to bargain. He could offer exile and leave the city he loves to argue with the sea. He could pay a fine. He could invent a sickness that requires leaving. He could say he is sorry. He could lie. He suggests first a joke with a blade in it. What is the penalty for a man who has benefited the city all his life? Free meals in the Prytanean, the hall where we honor champions. Some laugh and mark him more dangerous for it. Friends wave frantically. Fines, they signal, offer a fine. He offers a small one. He is poor. His students volunteer their purses, and the number grows enough to count. It is not enough. Death it is. They do not kill him with spectacle. There is a procedure. A sacred ship must return from Delos before executions proceed. The city will not shed blood while the ship is at sea. For days, the old man waits in a small room where walls learn the shape of thought. The door opens. Friends enter. They argue the argument that always comes after a verdict, the argument about escape. Crito, loyal and practical, has bribed the right people. There is a boat. There are friends down the road with rooms and bread. You will live, Crito says, and Athens will, in time, be embarrassed. What good is it to the city for you to be dead? What good is it to the boys who love your questions? Take the door. Socrates shakes his head as if refusing a second cup of wine. I have spent my life insisting that one must never do wrong, he says, not even to repay wrong. Would you have me spend my last hour learning to be clever with principles? The law, like a father, raised me. If the law has struck me foolishly, I can argue with it, but I will not hit it back. If I run, I turn the city from a patient I am treating to a pursuer I am outwitting. My converse with justice is over the moment I treat it as something to dodge. Crito pleads. Socrates asks him to imagine the laws themselves personified, asking, "Did we not rear you? Did we not allow you to speak? Were you not free to leave at any time?" He answers the laws with his action. He stayed. He will stay. Others ask, with grief turning their voices harsher than they mean, "But what about your children?" He answers, "If I live badly, what have I taught them? If I flee, I teach them the first lesson of cowardice, that principles are costumes for good weather." The last day, the prison servant, gentler than such servants are in stories, comes weeping. Socrates, you are the noblest man who ever came here. Forgive me, it is time. He describes the ritual, the cup, the walk, the bed. It is all measured. Everything has been measured in this city except the weight of a conscience, and they are about to learn what that weighs. The friends gather. Plato is ill that day, or says he is, or cannot bear to write himself in. Others come. Crito, Apollodorus, Simmias, Cebes, names that will be syllables in a book, men whose faces are wet now. They ask him what he believes about death, because even at the door to it, they cannot help themselves. They want one more lesson, one more argument. He gives it as if the hour were no different from any other. He speaks of the soul and its work, of philosophy as practice for dying, of the difference between being alive and living well. Then the cup. It is thick, with hemlock, a plant that lends the body an orderly failure. Not a drama, a shutting down. He takes it without shaking. He asks what it contains. He is told. He nods. He looks at the men who have followed him through questions with the expression of someone who sees a clear road after rain and wishes the others could see it too. He drinks. He walks, as instructed, until his legs begin to forget being legs. He lies down. The numbness climbs like water rising under a door. He covers his face. His friends, who have not rehearsed for this, cry ugly human sobs that cannot be dignified by philosophy. He uncovers his face and scolds them gently. For shame, my friends, be quiet. It is not a command to be statues. It is a reminder that they are present at a lesson, and lessons deserve attention. His last sentence is practical, almost domestic. Credo, we owe a cock to Asclepius. Pay the debt, do not forget. An offering to the god of healing. Scholars have argued for centuries over the meaning. It is the kind of line that becomes a hinge for 1,000 interpretations. Perhaps it is simple. Life was a sickness. Death is the cure. Perhaps it is gratitude for a life of questioning. Perhaps it is just what it is, a reminder to honor a promise. He has spent his life insisting that philosophy is not a theater trick. He will not end with fireworks. He exhales. The room becomes a room without him. Outside, Athens continues, bread is sold, rumors traded, the sea does what it always does. Inside, men sit beside a bed where a friend's hand cooled beyond being his hand. They will carry the story like a coal that does not cool. What does it mean to die for your philosophy? For Socrates, it was not a sudden blaze. It was the last sentence of a paragraph he had been writing with his feet for 70 years. He had argued that to do wrong harms the soul more than to suffer it. When the city offered him the chance to do a small wrong, break the law to save the body, he refused. He had argued that the unexamined life is not worth living. When the city offered him a life that would require him to stop examining it, he said, "Then I will not live." He was not making a martyrdom. He was closing a syllogism. In the days after, talk spread like sap in spring. Some called him a fool who could have lived to teach. And what use is a dead teacher? Some called him a saint without a shrine. Some, quietly, then louder, called him a danger the city had to remove, because a city cannot be constantly asked whether it deserves its own laws. A boy who had loved him wrote a dialogue that rewound the day and set it down like a copy that will not fade. That boy's name, Plato, would become a city in which other boys took shelter for centuries. You can reject Socrates' metaphysics and still be indebted to his refusal. Because the point is not that he guessed correctly about what awaits. The point is that he made his life one thing. He did not say, "I believe this," and then live in a way that required footnotes and exceptions. He kept himself one piece. When the city asked him to fragment, "Here your words, there your deeds," he declined. Consider how small the difference is between the man who drinks because he must and the man who drinks because he must remain himself. From a distance, it is the same scene: a cup, a bed, friends. Close up, the choice is the entire architecture of soul. Imagine him now, not as a relic, but as a presence in your mouth when you find yourself about to lie to save a morning, about to flatter to keep a place at a table you don't respect, about to flee the thing you've declared you are. Do not pretend to know what you do not know, he says. Do not pretend to be who you are not. Imagine the city, any city, and listen for the murmur. Figs, ships, gods, taxes, headlines, contracts, loves. Find the smallest version of a trial, a room where people are watching to see whether you will spend your principles like coins. Tell the truth if you can. If you cannot, be quiet and try again tomorrow. Do not use his name like a talisman. Use his method like a tool. You know his story ends with hemlock, but it also ends with an account settled, a cock to Asclepius, a debt to healing paid. He thought life a fever that philosophy cools. If that strikes you as bleak, consider the note inside it. That clarity is kindness, that alignment is relief, that a life examined, even painfully, even in public, tastes better than a long, easy sleep. If you want a moral, take this. Dying for your philosophy is not the point. Living by it is. But if your life has made a shape that cannot be unmade without breaking it, and the world asks you to do that breaking, Socrates hands you a cup and shows you how a steady hand looks. His courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to give fear a pen. And if you want a prayer, make it short. May my last sentence match my first question. May I owe only debts I know how to pay. May I never be a stranger to the soul my mouth describes. May I be as unwilling to do wrong in crisis as I am in comfort. And if a city must choose between quiet and truth, may it at least know what it has chosen. The voice in the market falls silent. The dust settles. The questions remain like footprints on stone. You step into one, it fits. You ask someone gently, "What do you mean by that?" The old man is gone. The work continues.